Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_daddy. Well, first and foremost, again, I got to give you all a shout out for your dedication to the podcast. Special shout out to Nebraska Rev, who joined up on Patreon on the Robert Brooks tier, as well as Wade Schiltz, I think it says. I'm blind. For joining up as a free member. I am right this second actually working on getting over a article on the Senior Bowl. I just want to kind of comb through it and make sure it's what I would like. And I will get that over to all of you. Thank you guys again so much for all of your support. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can do so at patreon.com/pack_daddy. Or as always, just make sure you are here every day. It's the best way to support the podcast. Okay. News and notesy stuff. Quite a bit going on. Lots and lots more drama. First of all, the NFL has said it will consider possible tweaks to its kickoff format after an increased concussion rate in 2025. Do I even need to say it? Again, keep tweaking things, thinking you're fixing everything, and you just make everything worse. But I worry about the direction that this is going to go. They did say tweaks, so you would assume it's going to be minor, but I don't know. We went through that period of just awful kickoffs are basically useless. Why don't we just start people at the 20-yard line or 25 or whatever it was in that period and be done with it? I don't want to get back to that. Not a lot of details on that so far. It was just kind of a throwaway comment, but it is something to keep an eye on moving forward. That the NFL is looking at that the concussions, they think that they're moving in the right direction, but haven't quite done enough. What does that mean? I don't know, but expect that discussion to heat up as time goes on, especially as you start talking about the owners meeting and all that kind of stuff. We'll see how this gets discussed, but go ahead and put that one in your back pocket. Also, some injury issues for the upcoming Super Bowl. Both quarterbacks are dealing with some different injuries. Sam Darnold apparently dealing with an oblique injury and was limited in practice. He actually strained it prior to his game against the 49ers, apparently, and played through it, but it's still a lingering issue. Kind of reminds me of Zach Tom's situation. It's just one of those things that continued to linger. And so the thought, I believe now, is that he's not going to be healed by game time, but he's not going to sit either. Seattle has intentionally limited his throwing during the week to manage the oblique, with coaches saying he would not throw every ball, every play in practice. Recent reports list him as limited in practice with an oblique injury, and beat reporters and sites and whatnot expect that limitation to continue into next week as a maintenance approach. The other is Drake May. Drake May apparently is dealing with a shoulder injury. It is on his right shoulder, which is his throwing arm. Again, they kind of tried to downplay it for obvious reasons. The coach has come out like, it's no big deal. He's going to be fine, which is presumably true and not true. In other words, he's probably going to play, but play hurt. Issue has been present around and before the AFC Championship game win over the Broncos, where he appeared to aggravate it on a third-quarter scramble and awkward slide on his right side. On the January 28th projected report, he was listed as limited participant with a right shoulder injury, even though the team only held a walkthrough on that day. The subsequent practice, he has continued to be listed as limited, with reports noting he did little or no throwing during the portion of practice open to media, then took some throwing reps afterward. Mike Vrabel and the Patriots staff have repeatedly indicated they are not overly concerned. I think that's hilarious. Repeatedly emphasized, please, guys, we are not overly concerned. Frame that as something to monitor rather than a serious threat for his availability. Again, there's no question he's going to play in the Super Bowl. The question is, how much is that going to be bothering him? And then another injury thing, not related to a Super Bowl team, but kind of a weird situation. Sean Payton came out to talk about Bo Nix's ankle situation. If you remember, Bo Nix probably should be in the Super Bowl right now, but ran a play at the end of the game, broke his ankle, couldn't play in the game against the Patriots and lost that game. Sean Payton said Bo Nix's ankle injury wasn't just a fluke play, claiming doctors found a predisposed condition that made the injury inevitable, which is interesting. It's pretty big news, right? Like it was something, a ticking time bomb that was just bound to go off and just went off at the worst possible time. Well, apparently Bo Nix got super pissed about that. He held his own press conference and said, no, there was no predisposition. That's not true. Said, he's not an injury-prone player. Blamed it on the play, said it was an unfortunate football play, and then expressed confidence in his recovery and future durability. So kind of a weird thing to have this head coach come out and essentially blame the player's body, and then the player hold his own press conference and say, yeah, my coach is full of crap. That's not true. I'm not injury prone. I'm fine. I'm going to be fine. What, dude? There's speculation that Nix may be sensitive about injury labels, possibly stemming from draft process narratives or internal pressure about availability. I don't know. The whole thing's very odd. And once again, brings us to another team that has now got some issues. Again, there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's not just, you've got the 4 dysfunctional teams, and then you've got the Packers that are kind of and then you've got all these other teams that are just elite and everything's running like a well-oiled machine. That is certainly not the situation. There's all kinds of internal strife and drama going on that is causing problems. The Falcons pulled the trigger on Bears assistant GM. They decided to hire him as their general manager via Ari Mirov. Let's see. The Falcons are hiring Bears assistant GM Ian Cunningham as their new GM. Per Adam Schefter, Cunningham finally gets his long-awaited GM opportunity, joining president Matt Ryan and head coach Kevin Stefanski as the leaders in Atlanta. Ari Mirov went on to say the Bears will not receive 2 third-round compensatory picks for Ian Cunningham leaving because Matt Ryan is considered the lead football executive in Atlanta, not Cunningham officially. Oh, does that suck? That has something to do with the minority thing. I don't know. But yeah, not getting that. And I'm glad that these guys are getting poached, largely because in my mind, not that Ryan Poles might not figure stuff out or start doing better or whatever the case may be. I don't know what's going to happen. But I think he's been bad. And I think there's a chance if he continues to be as bad as he has been, especially now that he can't mask how bad he is with having tons of money and really early picks, he's going to end up getting fired sooner than later. And if there is a talented young guy behind him, I don't want him taking over operations and immediately improving things. So get him out of there. Now you go ahead and fire Poles if you want. That story, by the way, it's going to have some teeth here in just a minute. I don't think we're quite ready for it yet, but the Vikings went ahead and did something interesting. I don't think I mentioned it yet, but pass game coordinator Derrick Ansley did actually leave. Maybe I mentioned it. I don't know, but I'd kind of talked about how if he was going to stay, he obviously was going to have some kind of a demotion because when we hired, blanking on his name, but we hired a guy to be the pass game coordinator. That's Derrick Ansley's job. Bobby Babich is the guy we hired. So unless he was going to take some kind of a demotion or have some other kind of a weird title or something, he would have to be working with corners or safeties or something. Unless, Bobby Babich was just the pass game coordinator, he could be the DB coach or something. All right, on to that more interesting news. The Minnesota Vikings actually did a good thing, although they did it in a stupid way, which is kind of funny. They have fired their general manager, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, which is great because I don't have to say that name anymore. It's too long. We can't have 3 names, dude. You get 2, all right? We don't even say Brian Gutekunst. We don't even say Gutekunst. We just say Goot, all right? You can't be Kwesi Adofo-Mensah. It's crazy. Anyways, he has been a horrific GM, worse than Poles, worse than I think every single GM in the NFL. I don't know why it took so long for them to do it. The really weird thing is that, and we went through this as well, where we had Brian Gutekunst get brought on, around this time or something. And, you're like, hey, I don't even want to say half. You're a large way through the season as far as how we do things, what we're going to do, and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be tough to just get a GM, have him come in here, and then, when the draft shows up, try to figure out what to do or free agency. It's going to be a tough first year. Apparently, they're not even going to get a GM, which is weird. They're going to forego that, let somebody internally just kind of figure it out, and then after the draft, they're going to start looking for a GM, which is, of course, after all the GMs have been hired away by all the other teams. So that's cool, which I guess that's mostly been done. I don't know how many teams are still looking for GMs, which, again, makes me wonder why it took you so freaking long to wait for that. Here's a little short intro video to this situation by Mr. Lockdown Vikings. I don't know his name, but here's what he had to say.
Well, Kwesi's out. The Wills have fired Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. What's up? I'm Luke Braun. I do Lockdown Vikings. I'm about to go live to talk about all of this, but here's what we know right now. Kwesi is out. Rob Brzezinski is going to run things all the way through the draft, it sounds like, which is a wild plan, both because why would you just hire a GM when everybody else who fired their GMs is still hiring them? Like, it's not a weird time to hire a GM.
Correct.
But also because last time Rob Brzezinski had drafting power, they picked Christian Ponder and then, immediately changed things. So I don't really know what they're thinking there. But I'll talk about all of this live. For now, what we know is that it was about more than just missing on draft picks or the J.J. McCarthy, Sam Darnold disaster that's going on. It was political. Adam Schefter has reported that there's tension in the building and stuff, and we're going to have to wait to see a lot of that come out. So come join me live and we'll talk about it.
So I don't really have a lot of details on what exactly he's talking about. I kind of think he's referring to a lot of early reports that are coming out in regards to, things are really not good. But I don't agree necessarily, at least now until further information comes out, with the sentiment that this wasn't because he's just a dog crap GM and that it was more so political, as he put it. I think maybe the problems that they were having, the personalities that were not gelling, probably has to do with the fact that he's not a good GM. Anything else on top of that is just icing on top of the cake. I mean, we don't need any kind of rationalization beyond that. But I'm all for it if it turns out there's some kind of a mess being left behind. I'm very happy to lean into that. It's also hilarious to hear that not only are they not going to hire a GM, they're going to let a guy take over that essentially ran the freaking team into the ground. Why didn't they get rid of that guy, by the way? Whatever his name is, that he drafted Christian Ponder or something like. Oh my goodness. It reminds me of the Jets. Kind of like the opposite situation, I guess. But I remember talking to some Jets people about their GM, and they're like, no, he's actually really good. I'm like, what about all these stupid freaking things you did? And they're like, well, what happened was the GM left for a week, and he took over and started doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And then when he came back, everything was fine again. I'm like, oh, all right, well, that's weird. Sounds like the same thing here, except the guy taking over now is the crazy owner that just does stupid stuff. Although he's taking over for a guy that also does stupid stuff, so I don't really know if we will be able to notice a difference. All that to say, it's unfortunate that Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah is leaving because he was doing a bad job, and they may go out and get a good GM and do all kinds of good things. It is, however, good that in a down year where they're drafting a little higher than in a kind of typical-ish year for the Vikings, they're probably not going to hit a home run. Maybe they do. I don't know. They're not completely incompetent people in there, but this wouldn't be, if I had to pick which team was going to just knock it out of the park, I'm going to put the Vikings at the bottom of that list for this year. Couple new news items as I was speaking just popped up. So why don't we actually take a break here? We'll talk about those things, and then we will do what I said we were going to do, and we will get to the Senior Bowl and what happened in the 3 Senior Bowl day practices. We will take a break. We'll be right back. All right, so it's not really breaking news because it's what we've already known, but the Green Bay Packers did officially announce they have signed Gutekunst, Matt LaFleur, and Russ Ball to contract extensions. Ed Policy, in a statement, said, "We are excited to extend our commitment to Brian, Matt, and Russ as the leaders of our football operation. Their steadfast dedication, passion, and collaboration have remained constant in our drive to compete at the highest level. While we are all disappointed with the way the season ended, we remain aligned in purpose and have spent considerable time over the past weeks collaborating on a path forward. I'm exceedingly confident we have the right people to achieve our goal. The entire Packers organization looks forward to supporting every effort to bring our community and fans another championship that they very much deserve." So there you go. And then the NFL salary cap, the NFL has been telling teams, is projected to be between $301.2 million and $305.7 million per team for 2026 via Tom Pelissero. This really doesn't move the needle a ton. I think most people kind of saw it to be around this range. I know I've seen Ken Ingalls says he's been using 303 as his kind of, I don't know, but probably number as he's doing his cap stuff. So that would be almost smack dab in the middle of the range that they're saying. So no big shocker there, but a little bit of clarification, I suppose. Not a ton, because, we kind of expected this to be the range, and it's still just a range. But that's what we're going to be working with. That's what teams are going to have to work with. All right, why don't we just dive into this now? We're going to go through the Senior Bowl. So again, as a reminder, the Senior Bowl practices have concluded. The Senior Bowl game has yet to happen. That should be tomorrow for you, I believe, Saturday. So that'll still be worthwhile to check out if you're able to watch it. Otherwise, again, we'll cover kind of the news and notesy stuff from that. With that said, as I've said, the largest pile of news is going to come from these practices. So I want to go through some of the names of the guys that stood out, because there is kind of a known, what would you call it, reputation the Packers have for guys that maybe really put themselves on the radar, like Christian Watson, a lesser-known commodity that really blew up at the Senior Bowl. So this, at least in part of what we're going to do today, can be found over on Patreon. I did put it up for free and paid subscribers. We're going to go through the prospects that are in here, but we're going to go a little bit deeper here on the podcast, starting with the trenches, which is what a lot of the excitement about this is. They do the pass rush drills where the pass rusher has to get to the coach and the offensive lineman has to block him and all that. It's always a good time. But for starters, the week's top performer, Lee Hunter, defensive tackle out of Texas Tech, considered by many to be the single most dominant player of the week. Lee Hunter was an absolute force, a massive individual at 6'4", 330 pounds. Thank you, baby. Hunter showed surprising quickness for his size. He was a wrecking ball in both run defense and pass rush during one-on-one and team drills, proving he was built for the NFL. His phenomenal performance likely elevated him from a solid day 2 prospect into the conversation as a potential first-round pick. Obviously, that would work against us, but if he is still a day 2 prospect, there's a chance he could be around for us. Right now on the consensus big board, he sits at 42 overall, so it would, even now without that performance, be a little bit of a reach. But we'll see. We'll see how these things sort themselves. I couldn't tell you how many times we've heard about guys that are completely out of our reach that end up being well within our reach and beyond. Usually those people end up falling past us. It's impossible that Jackson Smith-Njigba is available for us. He's there, and then he's gone. And then there's T.J. Parker, edge rusher out of Clemson. You never draft an edge rusher out of Clemson. Fortunately, he's at consensus 28, so unless he falls, we're not going to have to worry about it. But T.J. Parker entered the week with something to prove. After his sack production slipped during the 2025 season, he answered any questions with a monster week in Mobile. No offensive tackle could handle his signature long arm move, which he used to generate consistent pressure and reestablish his dominance. And then we get to somebody that is a little bit more in our reach. Edge rusher out of Michigan, Derrick Moore. He's currently consensus 80 overall on the big board, meaning obviously not only could we get him in the second, maybe get him in the third, probably not. It's one of those things, too, where the Packers would take him in the second and everybody would say, what the heck are you doing? He's not a second-round prospect. Well, you go back and look, and, oh, yeah, he blew up in the Senior Bowl, blah, blah, blah. Derrick Moore is a physical edge player who wins with pure power. He was relentless all week, setting the edge against the run and bull rushing his way to the quarterback. He produced one of the wow moments of the week when he famously put an offensive lineman on his cheeks during a one-on-one rep. He projects as a great value pick on day 2 of the draft, bringing an instant physical presence to any defensive line. Now, since he is a little bit more realistic, I want to spend a little bit more time on him. He's 23 years old. All 4 years at Michigan has gotten better every year, which I love. His grades in those 4 years were 68, 78, 79, and then 90 this past year. His pass rush grades went from 69, 81, 87, and then 92. He had 41 pressures and 11 sacks on just 234 attempts, 17.5% pressure rate. So pretty freaking dominant guy. I know most people would say, well, edge isn't our biggest need. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, okay? Again, I will say this 1,000 times. The draft is not like people do their mock drafts. It's not with your first pick, you take your biggest need. With your second pick, you take your second biggest need. With your third pick, you take your third biggest need. That's how people do mock drafts. That's not how any professional football team does their drafts. And the problem is we're going to get to the draft. They're going to draft an edge rusher with their first or second pick, and everyone's going to say, hey, Gutekunst is an idiot. We don't need an edge rusher. Great. Great. Okay, cool. Great analysis. Thank you. The next standout player is Gabe. Boy, you could say that name wrong. Jacas, I think is how you say his name. Gabe Jacas. Whew. I almost just like off the cuff was like Gabe Jacas. Oh, nope. But edge rusher out of Illinois. Jacas was one of the biggest winners from practice, consistently getting pressure on the quarterback. What makes him so effective is his potent combination of power, exceptionally skilled handwork credited to his wrestling background, and a relentless motor that never quits. He solidified his standing as a potential top 50 player in the draft class. If I didn't say it, he is consensus 70 right now. So presumably he'll be rising. We'll see. But he is listed at 6'3", 260. PFF has him at 270. I don't have the weigh-in stuff. I'll be working on that at another time. But very similar, actually, just not quite as good of grades. 4 years, all the same school, Illinois. Kind of like 3 years at like 68, 69, and then he had a 78 this year. His pass rush grades, though, are much more prominent. 71, 64, and then 83, 89. Very similar stats, too. 41 pressures on 292 attempts and 12 sacks. So grades and statistics from a pass rush standpoint are very similar between Jacas and Derrick Moore. Outside of the defensive line group, some other guys that stood out on the defensive side, linebacker Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh, the human magnet. He's consensus 122 right now. Felt like Kyle Lewis was always around the football throughout the week. He consistently made plays all over the field. He showcased his ability to excel in pass coverage, but also demonstrated a knack for shooting gaps and disrupting the run game. His highlight reel from the week included a strip sack and an interception, proving his all-around playmaking ability. Lewis is one of the players who made the most money this week, with his stock trending up for a potential top 100 selection. Again, consensus 122, but made a case to be in that top 100 area. PFF has him listed at 6'1", 220. He has a 73 PFF grade, 75 run defense, 75 tackling, 70 pass rush, 72 coverage. Solid across the board. 2024 was even better. Consistent across the board, just higher. 83, 85, 79, 70, and 83 in coverage. He has 52 pressures, 10 sacks in his 3-year career. He has given up 700 yards in his 3 years, 3 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, and 5 pass breakups. 79.5 passer rating when targeted. Again, linebacker's not going to be at the top of anybody else's list, but is definitely not a we don't need it at all category. We got to see what the situation is with Quay, and behind the top 2 guys, we don't really know exactly what we have. There's names, there's bodies, but in terms of do we feel super confident? Next up is Bud Clark, safety out of TCU. He's at consensus 176, so kind of in the middle round area. Bud Clark is a bona fide ball magnet. His impressive production at TCU, where he racked up 15 interceptions in his 4 seasons, was on full display in Mobile. He capped off an excellent week of practice with the highlight of the week, a spectacular one-handed interception that showcased his elite ball skills. His rising stock makes him a likely day 2 pick for a team in need of a turnover-creating safety. He has spent 6 years at TCU, listed at 6'2", 190. 4 years, so the first 2 years he didn't play a ton. The second 2 years he played about 500 snaps, which is, kind of starter range. Then his last 2 years he played actual starter snaps, 700 and 800 snaps. In those years he was dominant. Now, very old and breakout age is going to be very late, which is going to trigger some red flags. But in 2024, 90 overall, 75 run defense, 87 tackling, and 90 coverage. And then in 2025, 80, 83 run defense, 70 tackling, 72 pass rush, 77 coverage. So solid in both years. He has 11 touchdowns given up, 15 interceptions, 20 pass breakups, 74.6 passer rating when targeted. Again, 2024 was his best year, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 4 pass breakups, 42.8 passer rating when targeted. Also, just looking at 2025, he just doesn't really have any bad games. His lowest graded game was a 55.2 against BYU. So just kind of consistent and solid. I think the age, breakout age, and all that kind of stuff is going to be what maybe makes people a little bit more nervous. And then finally in this category is linebacker out of Texas Tech, a lot of Texas Tech, Jacob Rodriguez. Jacob Rodriguez's performance on Wednesday was described as probably the best individual practice showing of any player all week. On that single day, he forced a fumble, came away with an interception, displaying the instincts that made him a decorated player at Texas Tech. To top it off, NFL teams were also tremendously impressed with him and in the formal interview settings. With his on-field vision and stellar interviews, Rodriguez solidified himself as a valuable prospect who could come off the board on day 2 or early day 3. And he is right at 89 on the consensus board. So day 2 is probably a pretty safe bet at this point. Let's see what PFF has to say about Mr. Rodriguez here. Very, very highly graded. 4 years at Texas Tech. His 4-year overall grades were 72, 76, 83, and then this year 93. Man, this guy's going to be fun to watch. 95 run defense grade, 66 tackling grade, 61 pass rush, which was his lowest in his 4 years, and then a 92 coverage grade. He doesn't rush the passer a ton, but 40 attempts, he had 6 pressures, 1 sack, 70 stops, 7 forced fumbles, 54 receptions for 523 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 3 pass breakups, 84.5 passer rating when targeted. But yeah, his lowest graded game was a 60, which is crazy in and of itself. He had 1 game in the 70s, 5 games in the 80s, and 3 games in the 90s. So just 5 games in the 60s, and that's it. All right, let's take our final break. We've had some more, obviously, breaking news because it just can't stop. So we'll go over that, and then I'll try to get through the rest of these prospects. We'll see what we can do. We'll take a break. We'll be right back. All right, it is now being reported the Seattle Seahawks will go up for sale after the Super Bowl and could sell for a record $7 to $8 billion per Seth Wickersham and Brady Henderson. Sale discussions have taken place at ownership and league levels for at least the past week, the source said. I think the biggest, these things usually don't end up coming to fruition, but the biggest talking point, at least on social media, is Jeff Bezos. Whether, usually it's a group of people, but there's always talk about Bezos getting in on one of these things. This one being in Seattle makes a little bit more sense, more so than like Washington, I would think, although, lobbying wouldn't hurt. But that's crazy. What else do we got here? So I didn't expect this to happen, but it did. The GM of the Bears, as I mentioned, the assistant GM got hired for the GM job. Now the Bears have lost their offensive coordinator. ESPN sources, the Baltimore Ravens are hiring Bears offensive coordinator Declan Doyle as their offensive coordinator. Doyle can leave because in Baltimore he will have play-calling responsibility, but new Ravens head coach Jesse Minter now has someone to run Baltimore's offense. So this ends up actually being pretty cool. I know most people are going to shrug their shoulders. Ben Johnson is the genius. He's the guy. Number one, any amount of attrition I'll take. But also, this is a very rapidly rising dude. Very, very young. I think he was the youngest offensive coordinator who is now, again, an offensive coordinator still, but now a play-calling offensive coordinator. So, again, I know Ben Johnson is seen as the mastermind over there, but I think that this is a pretty big hit to the Chicago Bears to lose this. I mean, this is kind of like the Packers losing, our quarterback coach. Maybe it's, not that I expect him to be doing much with Jordan Love. Jordan Love has pretty much been built into what he is by Matt LaFleur. We already have Matt LaFleur, all that kind of stuff. But, he's a young, ascending guy that isn't on our staff anymore, kind of like this situation with Declan Doyle. So we'll keep an eye on what the Bears end up doing. They're going to have to find a new offensive coordinator. A lot of those guys have been picked clean from the tree already. So I'll take it. And then finally, I mentioned the Minnesota Vikings thing and that there was some drama behind the scenes, although we don't know what it is. Well, we got a little piece. Minnesota Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell repeatedly cautioned against starting quarterback J.J. McCarthy in 2025, believing he was not ready and that the supporting plan, McCarthy paired with a journeyman backup, was unlikely to work, but Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah didn't listen. This was rooted in, if not driven by, the ill-fated quarterback decision of 2025. This tells us Kwesi wanted what they got, J.J. McCarthy with journeyman backups, and that O'Connell was cautioning against it. He was the guy saying this isn't going to work. Okay, so the quarterback situation obviously was a big source of... And again, the fact that he failed is the story. The fact that he botched the quarterback situation so drastically, as well as not being able to draft anybody ever for any reason. But yes, that obviously also really infuriated the head coach, who is having to work with what he's going to have to work with there. But I love drama in the NFC North, not Packers related. Well, sometimes Packers related. All right, let's continue on with some of the Senior Bowl prospects that have been really improving their stock here. Well, let's get to the offensive line. Obviously, something the Packers need to invest in. Boy, we got another name here. See if AI can help me. Oh, somebody's ringing my freaking doorbell. I hate when they do that. People deliver packages, and like once every 10 times, they're like, I'm going to ring the doorbell. I get that that's probably the polite thing to do, to be like, hey, your package is here. But I mean, I'll get it, It's fine. It can sit out there. I don't care. Anywho, let's see if AI can help me pronounce this here. Max Ihenekor, offensive tackle, Arizona State. Arguably the best offensive tackle prospect of the week, I can't even say the first name. Max Ihenekor has one of the most incredible stories in the draft class, and even more exciting future. With impressive measurables at 6'5", 325 pounds, he demonstrated rapid growth, taking to coaching and visibly improving each day of practice. I guess he moved from Nigeria to America at age 13, never played high school football. His AAU basketball coach encouraged him to try it out. Got his start at East LA Community College before being recruited to Arizona State by the coach who first found him at Fresno State. Scouts believe he is just scratching the surface of his potential, which would make sense. He is sitting right now at consensus 61, so that's right in line with potentially where we're going to be picking. He has not played anything but right tackle. So, I don't know that it's a great fit unless they feel he can kick inside or they want to move some of the pieces that we have. Maybe they want Morgan to be inside and this guy can play left tackle. I don't know. But seemingly he is a Green Bay Packers tackle. His run blocking grades in the 60s, his pass blocking grades in the 70s. He is the right tackle Rasheed Walker at 6'6", 320 pounds. All right, let's go to receivers and tight ends. Malachi Fields, wide receiver out of Notre Dame. Clearly a cut above everyone else at the position. He displayed an impressive ability to get into his breaks and create separation. Also secured the catch of the week when he hauled in a perfectly thrown deep ball from quarterback Taylen Green, showcasing his big play ability. Fields had a monster week, and his draft stock is now a rocket ship that could land him in the late first to early second round. Right now, though, he's sitting at 69. Again, I know, wide receiver. Well, first of all, we might, if we lose Dobbs and or frickin' Wicks, we'll see. But again, I don't want to have that conversation too many times. PFF lists him at 6'4", 222, which is obviously very impressive. 4 years at Virginia before his last year at Notre Dame, 630 yards, 5 touchdowns, 17.5 yards per reception, 76 overall grade, 76 receiving grade, and an 84 drop grade. Only one drop, which was 2.7%. So good hands are pretty solid feature. Then there's Tyron Montgomery, also known by Packer fans as Ty Montgomery, wide receiver out of John Carroll. Tyron Montgomery was the undisputed story of the week. He looked like one of the most consistent and best receivers in attendance, which is incredible considering he had never played organized football until his junior year of college in 2024. He was originally a basketball player who walked on at LSU, returned home during COVID-19 pandemic, started seriously training as a receiver by catching passes from his quarterback brother, played flag football and became a flag football Olympian before finally playing organized football at Nichols and then John Carroll. He played so well that he likely won't last past the 5th round, an amazing rise for a player with such limited background. I don't know the spelling discrepancy, but it looks like it's Tyren, not Tyron. Tyren. But he's consensus 259 right now, so kind of late draft prospect. Then we have tight end out of Houston, Tanner Kosial. Tanner Kosial is a monster of a target who's been an instant red zone threat in the NFL at 6'7". Aaron Rodgers is going to be all over this guy. He used his massive frame to make several big plays during practice, including a tough catch in the corner of the end zone where he simply outmuscled the defender for the ball. He established himself as a fascinating prospect for teams needing a big body pass catcher to create mismatches. Another weird spelling thing here, Kosial with a Z. I think I know what happened, actually. It is Kosial with a Z. All right, so 6'7", 250 via PFF. Big-time breakout guy. He's actually 3 years at Ball State. He broke out in his 3rd year at Ball State with an 88 PFF grade, 89 receiving grade, 840 yards, 8 touchdowns. So then he goes to Houston. He transfers. Continues to play at a high level, which is always a good sign when they transfer and still perform at a high level. He had 727 yards, 9.8 yards per reception, 6 touchdowns, 79 grade, 87 receiving grade, 89 drop grade, 74% contested catch rate also, which is something you want to look at for a big boy like that. So contested catches, and he's just 250, so he's got to be a little skinny. I'll be very curious to see what his his speed is. If he might be some. I mean, I doubt he's real quick off the ball, but he's got those long giraffe legs. He might be a bit of a long strider. That striding speed, the deep speed. It's pretty interesting. Obviously, we have a tight end. There's nothing wrong with having two. Let's just be honest. I don't think we have two. Then we got another Texas Tech guy, Reggie Virgil, wide receiver out of Texas Tech. Reggie Virgil impressed scouts every single day at practice with his consistent play. He's a very smooth athlete, excellent size at 6'2", and possesses the downfield speed to take the top off of defenses. Solidified his stock as a reliable outside receiver who can contribute from day one. PFF has him at 6'3", 190. His grades are 3 years at Miami of Ohio. Final year there, he finally got a start, had 816 yards, almost 20 yards per reception, 9 touchdowns. That just screams speed freak. And a 71 grade. Went to Texas Tech, had 700 yards, 12 yards per reception, 6 touchdowns, 67.5 receiving grade. Listed at 6'3", 190, so a little tall, but maybe like an MVS potentially type of guy at 6'3". We'll see again what the speed metrics look like, but that could potentially be what we're looking at here. All right, next up we have the, call it the backfield stars, quarterback, running back. There's just 2 of them. Taylen Green, quarterback out of Arkansas. I actually am very interested in quarterback prospects. Don't usually get interested in them, but given our situation of Malik probably leaving, and to be honest, I'll probably be interested in this more than usual, like every year until we get another Malik, because when you get a guy like that, suddenly it's like I refuse to settle for anything less than a Malik Willis level backup, especially considering how fun they can be with the legs and everything else. But anywho, he's at consensus 169. You could call that early, but, what is Malik worth? Kind of a lot. Of all the quarterbacks at Mobile, Taylen Green helped himself the most. He showcased a tantalizing set of tools that have NFL teams excited about his potential. Stands at an impressive 6'6". PFF has him at 6'6", 235. I don't know what it is about Arkansas, but I feel like they're all giants there. Possesses a rocket for an arm, capable of making any throw on the field. Has game-changing mobility and is expected to run a very fast 40-yard dash. All right, well, punch the ticket, dude. I want him. Let's just freaking don't ask me stupid questions. While he still needs work on his mechanics, no problem with that whatsoever, and minimizing turnovers, that's a little bit scary. He showed more upside than any other quarterback at the event. For NFL teams, betting on rare physical tools like Green's is often worth the risk. And I feel like if we're going to do it, let's do it with that. I know you want a backup so that he can be a backup and all that, so that he can be ready to play, and he probably wouldn't be immediately. I get that. But when you have Matt LaFleur, who's a quarterback guy, and we got to go find a new quarterback guy for sure. I actually have some news on that, but I might just save it for tomorrow. Then you bet on the tools every time. I mean, that's what Malik was. Malik was a toolsy guy, a high upside guy that went somewhere where he was expected to start, completely sucked, goes where he can kind of just be with Matt LaFleur, who first of all is very good with building up game plans and plays and all that stuff to fit your skill set, but also he's a quarterback guy, and look what happened. So, I mean, if you're going to bet on a guy like Taylen Green, I would bet on him in a place like Green Bay. I mean, I said that about Jordan, and there you go. I said if Jordan's going to succeed anywhere, it's Green Bay, Wisconsin, and here we are. Green showcased elite traits that could entice a team to select him on day 2 as a high upside developmental quarterback. All right, and then running back from Indiana, Kalen Black. Scouts are incredibly impressed with Kalen Black's competitiveness. His decision to compete so soon after a grueling 16-game national championship run is a major green flag for NFL teams, demonstrating a love for the game and a warrior mentality that can't be taught. It's a little, whatever. His running style is full speed and violent, and he demonstrated excellent creativity in finding and exploiting running lanes. His toughness and all-out effort are traits that will be highly valued for NFL teams looking for a reliable and determined running back. He is right now sitting at 438, so we might be talking about undrafted free agent territory. PFF has him listed at 5'10", 211. That's right in the Goody range. geez, his grades are, hold on a second. Okay, there we go. I was on the wrong thing. I'm like, well, this looks ridiculous right now. So he's probably a little bit of an older guy. I don't have his age listed here, but 4 years at James Madison and then 2 years at Indiana. In his 2 years at Indiana, the first year he didn't really start, but he had 251 yards, 5.5 yards per carry, 84 running grade. This past year, 1,034 yards, 5.6 yards per attempt, 10 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, 84 grade, 86 rushing grade, 3.47 yards after contact per attempt, 30 missed tackles forced. All right, yeah, sounds good. All right, that's it. That's the whole list. We got through it. So, again, I went through every article you could find in existence, every YouTube channel, scoured the earth for all the people that were there and what they had to say, and this was what came out the other side as far as who was very impressive. We still have a game to do. Again, so tomorrow, I don't know, we'll do something tomorrow, and then the next day we'll probably cover the game and any notes from that. All right. You all have a good rest of your day. I will talk to you tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.